Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Lecture podcast. We're super excited to have our special guest today, who is Mr. Kelvin Lesene. Kelvin is the Airport Operations Manager at Wilmington Airport in Newcastle, Delaware. Kelvin attended Delaware State University, where he majored in aviation management and has always had a love for airplanes and all things aviation. Following his graduation from Delaware State University, he was employed at Wilmington Airport as an airport operations coordinator, where he worked there diligently for 6 years before being promoted August of 2021. Kelvin also holds a master's degree from Wilmington University in public administration. He is an avid reader, author, and enjoys spending time with his wife and 2 children. We're excited to have Kelvin on today for this episode of Beyond the Lecture podcast. Welcome back to Beyond the Lecture podcast. We're super excited for season 2, episode 4, and we have a very special guest, Mr. Kelvin. Thank you for joining us on today.
Absolutely. My pleasure to be here. Excited.
You're excited?
Yep, I'm excited.
All right. So here on Beyond the Lecture podcast, we kind of do a little opening, just some fun. So I'll ask you a few questions, kind of like a rapid fire, and then we'll kind of get into a little bit of why we're here.
All right. That's right.
So what is on repeat right now on your playlist?
I got a couple different things. ESTG, opinion based, and I got Jordan Welch, Forever.
Okay. All right. So what book are you currently reading right now?
When Crack Was King. I cannot remember his name, forgive me. But it's a book that really entails and talks about crack in the 80s and what it did to not only the black community but the nation as a whole, and really deep dives into some things that, some behind the scenes explanations of things that we just didn't have. If you see crack and what its effects were in the 80s and really what it did to the black community, a lot of the things that we were told and seen at face value isn't necessarily the full picture.
Awesome. That sounds like a book that I need to add to my reading list. All right, so if you had to, and this will segue right into what we're going, if you had to describe your career journey as a movie title, what would it be?
Career journey as a movie title. I'm not sure. Honestly, my favorite movie is The Mighty Ducks. But I don't know if I can make that
correlate.
Yeah, I can't make that correlate.
Okay.
I was never the downtrodden ragtag person.
So just give us a title, not movie, but what will be the title of your career journey?
Never Give Up.
Never Give Up. That's good. So as we're speaking about career journey and never giving up, tell us a little bit about how you arrived at this seat, what you do, and how did you get there?
So I'm currently the airport operations manager at Wilmington Airport, about 40 miles up the road at Wilmington. In Newcastle rather, which is Delaware's only commercial service airport. How I arrived there, I actually was a student here in 2010 to 2015, but prior to that, on a field trip when I was like 6 or 7 years old, I got to sit in the cockpit of an F-16, and when I got out, I told the pilot, I'm going to do this one day. And so life went on. I got an opportunity to sit in some other chairs, kind of really fell in love with aviation and what that looked like. And when it was time to go to college, I picked Del State. I got into a school called Embry-Riddle, which is the top aviation school rather in the nation. They turned out some of the best candidates, which I believe we do here. But the difference between that and here was I couldn't afford here, but I couldn't afford Embry-Riddle as well. And so we had to do what made the most sense for, single parent home. And so we did that. And I came here, went to school here, did 3 internships. My most notable was a year at Philadelphia International. So I really fell in love with aviation management. And then before I graduated, got an opportunity to be hired part-time at the airport. It's about 5 or 10 minutes from here that the Hornets aviation department flies out of. Okay. And then I got hired full-time at Newcastle, and I've been there since August of 2015.
Awesome. So it looks like your love for planes and doing that really resonated. And speaking to you never giving up, what was some of the things that you began to tell yourself to obtain those 3 internships, and or what do you believe made you stand out above the rest?
So I remember we had a lecture similar to this, an alumni came back and said, hey, listen, y'all need internships. Do not go out into this career field looking for a job with no internship on your resume. Went back to my dorm and I wrote a cover letter. And I probably sent that cover letter, to no exaggeration, somewhere around 150 companies.
Wow.
And Summit Aviation, which is in Middletown, about 20 minutes from here, got back to me. So that was my first internship. And so every year after that, I made it a point to send out that same cover letter that I made that year. I sent it out to every year after that, and made it a point to do my best to get an internship. And I think that's what really set me apart, because two of the internships that I was awarded, the companies never had internships in the past. So as I say, never give up. I saw a need, and I saw what I wanted to do, and that was the best way that I thought that I could stand out amongst my peers, was having these internships, and a diverse internship at that. So they were never doing the same exact thing.
Yeah.
One was in aircraft maintenance. I did an internship, but then the other one was considered scheduling and planning, where they plan out the maintenance within the hangar and the technicians and all of that fun stuff.
Wow, that's awesome. So during those internships, did you feel that, one, did they prepare you for where you're sitting at now? And two, what were maybe the top 3 skills that you believe has helped you to get where you are?
So they absolutely prepared me, because they gave me, a glimpse into what the aviation industry is comprised of outside of just flying an airplane and being a flight attendant. And no disrespect to those persons, but I had to get an understanding of what I would be doing, which wasn't those two things. And so they gave me an opportunity to see what it was like, and they also helped me to begin my journey in learning the language. It's important that you know the language of the industry that you're going into.
Yeah.
I wholeheartedly believe that those people who master the language master the community. So if you've got a handle on the language, you have an opportunity to control and to steer the community, and have a level of respect from those who are in the industry.
Yeah.
Coming into an industry new, coming into an industry fresh, as a newbie at an entry level, they don't expect you to know anything. And so going in with at least a decent handle on the industry that you're working on, and the jargon and the language gives you a leg up.
Absolutely. So give us an example of, when you talk about understanding the language and all of that and cultivating that, what does that look like a day-to-day for effective communication around that?
So for me, mastering the language, I do aviation. That's what I do. That's what I know. That's a language that I speak 90% of my day. But in the other 90% of my day, I talk to people who don't do this every day. And so it's important for me to have the ability to explain to them at a level which they can understand. I'm the subject matter expert here.
Yeah.
And so when we talk airport construction, or we talk about with airport vendors, those people don't do this every day. Airport construction groups think that they can just come in and start construction. But there are federal guidelines by which we all have to follow that they just may not be aware of. And so having an understanding of that language and bringing that to them, to which they understand, and being that subject matter expert, is important.
Yeah.
Everything falls back on our desk because we are the subject matter expert. But that comes again with knowing the language.
Yeah.
And so we can all get in a level of trouble if I don't understand what I'm conveying to them, and they're only doing what I am conveying.
Yeah, I think that's key, and that's one of the things that we talk about here in class, because this is a managerial communications class. It's important to know the audience in which you are speaking with. Not only is it important to know that, as you just said, but making sure that what you're saying falls in a way in which they know how to execute.
Absolutely.
And be effective. So that's really good. Could you talk about skills that are essential for managing a team in those high pressure areas, right? Managing an airport is no easy feat. So what are those skills that you believe are essential for doing that?
Patience. And again, to my previous point, I do this every day, but the people that I talk to don't do this every day. And that's even at a leadership level. So people that are above me, our governing body, our board of directors, they don't do this every day.
Yeah.
And so when you go before them and you're asking them for funding, or you need to convey the importance of a project that was not originally on your docket for that year, or the out years, we call them when it comes to federal budgeting, you have to have the ability to explain it and get them to a point, to your point, to where they understand the importance and the significance of it. And so having to have patience when you may have to explain it 2 and 3 times. So you think you're frustrated now because, you know, the admin lost your paperwork. You have no idea, because you're going to have to explain to your boss a couple of times why this is important. I literally today, I explained something to my boss on Monday, and I had to explain it to him again today, and I'm pretty sure Friday I'll be telling him the same story. But that comes with a level of patience, and for me, it's exciting almost, because I get to bring people into my world. So I get to bring people into my world and geek out and talk about approaches and imaginary surfaces and what 139 is, and et cetera. And so I get the opportunity to have that patience to explain to people what I do. And my hope is always that they find a level of appreciation for what I do.
Absolutely. That's good. So as you are sitting here with explaining what you do, could you tell us the difference for those that don't understand aviation management and those that desire or in school to be pilots? Like, what we know on the surface what that looks like, but
so the pilot students, they essentially know that they want to either work for an air carrier, the United, a Delta, whoever, or they may want to fly private jets. But the management students, if there's a job in the quote unquote regular world, there's one for it in aviation. And so there's marketing jobs, there's finance jobs, there's jobs in accounting, there are jobs in engineering. I know someone who graduated from Del State with me who got her structural engineering degree, and now she's a structural engineer for the FAA. Didn't know squat about airplanes, but she had an engineering degree. Wow. And so the folks that are in the aviation management department don't want to be pilots per se, as far as a career goes. And so some of them may want to be an air traffic controller, do what I do in airport operations. They may want to work at an airline in their, safety or contracts, or work for an engineering contractor, or there's a gamut of things that they can do, but getting that base aviation knowledge is what everyone is doing while they're here.
Okay, good. Well, thank you for explaining that to us. So what would you say would be, how do you foster collaboration and teamwork amongst those two? So you have those individuals that run the airports and manage and do all of those things, but then you have pilots, you have all of that. How do you foster collaboration between the two?
The best way is to not keep anyone out. And so we have, at my airport specifically, we have usually 2, if not 3 tenant meetings. And so that's where we give an opportunity. We present to our flying public our projects, what we have coming on the docket, what we have in 2026 or 2027, and highlighting those projects and those initiatives that directly affect them. The airport is planning to move a taxiway. So a taxiway gets you to a runway. We are planning to basically move an entire taxiway, and so that's something that is important to get to our flying public so that they know. But in conjunction with that, hearing their concerns about what's important and areas of concern on the airfield and in the airspace that we may need to be able to address either at our level or a higher level. And so taking everyone's needs collaboratively and racking and stacking them and just start addressing them as we can. We've learned with our pilot base, just hear what they have to say. Yeah. And one thing that I've learned and I'll continue to say is we can do everything, we just cannot do everything today. And so good. Especially for us as an airport, when it comes to funding, the FAA or the Federal Aviation Administration, they put priority on projects that are safety and security related. And so you always try to go after those projects first, because that's when you can get the guaranteed funding. And so that's what we always put towards our flying public. If you guys have a concern that is safety related, please get it to us immediately, and we will try to get it into our what's considered our ACIP, or Airport Capital Improvements plan.
Okay, awesome. So you talked about making sure that you have patience, communication, all of that. So what strategies have you implemented during your time there to enhance the customer experience at the airport? And then how did you kind of communicate what those were to your team? Kind of piggybacking off of what you said.
So for us, for us, we are a smaller airport, right? And so we do have commercial service. And so a lot of times when people come, they will walk in the doors and say, oh, this is like a real airport. Well, absolutely, it's a real airport. And one thing that you'll hear in the aviation industry is if you've seen one airport, you've only seen one airport. Airports are different in size and shape and complexity and et cetera. And so what we've done at Wilmington is, because we have air service, we want people to feel like when they walk through the door, like this is a real airport. Yeah. Quote unquote. And so we've implemented what's considered customer touch points. And so when you walk in and you see a screen that has the arrivals and departures on it, it ain't a whiteboard on the wall where we wrote the time and date when the plane's supposed to get here and we out there with a marker clearing it off.
That made me feel safe.
Right. Yeah. And so when you walk in, you can see this screen that has arrivals and them listed in times. They have departures listed and their times. When you go to the gate screen that you would see at a Philadelphia is the exact same gate screen you'll see at our airport. And so we felt it important to give customers those touch points. You can make PA, and now no one's standing behind the counter like, hey, if you on flight 576, we leaving in a minute. No, we have an intercom system, which is important. Those are those touch points that people are looking for and listening for to give them a greater level of comfortability when they're using our airport.
Got it.
And so for me, funneling it down to my team was, we want to be of assistance to everyone at the curb. Doesn't start when they get inside. It starts at the curb.
Yeah. I love that the mission of it starts at the curb, because I do think that smaller airports get the rap of, I don't want to fly out of there because you got to walk onto the tarmac, you got to do all of those things. So that's good to know. So I have maybe about 2 more questions for you, and then I'll allow for our students to ask you any questions. This is still going back to communication, and I felt like you touched on it a little bit, but what do you see the challenges that you face with communicating clearly across vast networks, staff, stakeholders, all of that, given what's being portrayed in the media? How do you communicate to your stakeholders and your staff a sense of calm and different things like that, and assurance? And then how do you combat what's going on in the media?
Reassurance. I think clear communication keeps down chaos. And so it's my job to be clear on what I'm saying, and being clear that and reinforcing and reinstilling those company traits. And so we have traits that talk to, safety and reliability and integrity and et cetera. And so I make it a point to reinforce and reinstill. We are a diverse company, and we put a major stake in the diversity of our workforce. And so it's my job to, again, reinstate and reinforce, hey, that this is what we do, and we will never stop doing it. I'm in what's considered the transportation industry. And so transportation doesn't happen unless there's a diverse workforce. We oversee bridges, aircraft, as well as boats. And so if there was no diversity, if all we oversaw, which was at the inception of the authority, was bridges and nothing else, then we would only be able to talk to bridges. And so having a diverse network of modes of transportation speaks to our interests and our backing in diversity there, which means if we're diverse there, we're diverse across the board.
Absolutely.
And so as a manager, again, it's my place to make people feel comfortable. Hey, I'm never going to make you feel away no matter who's in office. I'm never going to make you feel away whether I agree or disagree. One thing I learned years ago, that acceptance is not agreement. So I accept you exactly where you are. I may not agree, but I accept you exactly where you are. And those are the things that help people feel like they are a part of what you're doing at your company.
That's good. That was really good. How does leadership differ in the operational setting at an airport than at any other industry, you think? Or do you think it differs?
I think it's fairly the same across the board. We just do airports, or we just do airplanes. As far as structure goes and requirements, I was talking about this to some students, I think yesterday. When we have a project, any project above $100,000 requires you to go out for an RFP, what's considered a request for proposal. That's pretty standard across the board, whether you're in higher ed, in aviation, or you're in banking. You know what I mean? So those things are typically the same. The intricacies of them may change some, depending on the company you work for and, you know, the way their structure is set up, but a lot of it is all the same. I have a director that I report to. My director reports to our executive director, and our executive director reports to a board.
Awesome. Got it. So I know I keep saying this one more, but I actually do have two more. One, we know that this is a communications class, but it's open to all business students and those that will be watching, maybe business or any other industry. What would you tell the management accounting student in ways in which they can get involved in the aviation industry? Because I believe they think that if you're not a manager of the airport or a pilot, why would I be here?
Go on these companies' websites and apply. If you pull up United, if you pull up Delta, if you pull up JetBlue, I promise you that they have jobs in accounting, in marketing, in PR, in engineering. Those jobs are there, I promise you. I ran into a lady that runs her own engineering firm, and she's looking for a structural engineer. So the jobs are there. Yeah. You have to go apply. I promise you they're there. And so if you know any engineering students, tell them come find me, because I know somebody that's hiring. Yeah. And I think that that just really dispelled the myth. I think on both sides, those that are in the aviation industry, yes, it's very specific. So no, they're not going to go and work at a bank, but those banks like a Barclays and different things like that have their own fleet. Yeah. You know, UPS has a fleet, Amazon, but on the flip side, United has human resources, marketing. How do you think they get the pilots get paid, right? Somebody has to put all of that stuff in. There's a commercial. Marketing did that. So I think understanding that is key. Last thing is, what one piece of advice you wish every student knew when it comes to career preparation? One piece of advice. Always be learning. Be always learning. I am well over 10 years in the aviation industry. That's current career and my internships. I'm well over 10 years, and pretty much every day I'm learning something new. And so the moment that you stop learning, you forfeit everything coming up. And another thing, if I can give two, I'm sorry. Don't be fearful. The worst thing they can tell you is no. Yeah. One thing I've learned is if you submit to fear, you forfeit your future, because you'll only stay exactly where you are. And so you've got to take a chance. Ask for that internship. Yeah, they've never done it. Take a shot. You never know. Again, I got 2 internships from companies who had never had an intern before me. You never know what can be done unless you ask. The answer is automatically no until you ask. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Well, this was an enriching and knowledgeable conversation. I thank you so much for just being here, sharing with us, sharing with our students. I see them taking notes, and you've given great gems. So now I'm not going to be as selfish anymore. I'm going to stop asking questions and give them an opportunity to ask some questions of you. So we're going to allow for our students to ask questions now.
Hey, my name is Josh Gill. I'm a sophomore aviation major concentrating pro pilot, but I'm very interested in the management side, because I know if something goes wrong, that's probably my fallback. I'm probably going to be ending up doing something like that. My question was, so airlines haven't always flown to Newcastle. When they're considering doing that, what does it look like? Do you reach out to the airlines trying to get them to come to your airport? Do airlines reach out to you trying to get there? And what sort of conversations happen facilitating that?
I'll share as much as I can. So typically, it depends. If it's a startup, sometimes they already know the markets that serve. They know the demographics. They know the markets that serve their group of people the best. But also in our industry, there's a conference called Jumpstart. And so literally think of speed dating, but with airlines. Wow. And so literally you walk into a room similar to this, there's airlines at each table, and us as, there's airports at each table and or airlines. And so we all go around, and you have about 30 minutes. And so I get the opportunity to go show them our demographics, what our passenger loads looks like, main point that they always want to see is what are the incentives? Do they get a gas tax? Do they get an incentive on what we consider fuel uploads? Do they get an incentive on passenger employments, or can we step the process of passenger employment pay based on we hit certain thresholds? And so that's what that looks like. So either they come to you and we have those conversations, you give them a tour. I'll tell you one thing, you're always under a strict NDA because they don't ever want it to get out that they're even considering you because the airline market is very competitive. But yeah, they either come to us or we theoretically go to them and we have those conversations at those tables. And if they see it as a benefit, then you consider it. I can say Avelo Airlines is currently with us. That was about a 3-year process.
Wow.
Bringing them on, we talked and then we didn't talk and then we talked and then we didn't talk and we talked again, and it was getting a little shaky. There were some times where there were some 8-9 hour meetings on a Sunday, from what I'm told, to get it across the finish line.
Wow.
That answers it well. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Any other questions?
Hello, my name is Kyle O'Connor. I'm an aviation management major. I'm a sophomore. And my question is, how has working in the aviation industry developed your character?
My character? I've always had great character. I think it's just reinforced it. You know, integrity is a pillar for me. And so coming into the aviation industry, you've got to be integral, because when you're not integral, I'm just going to be blunt and say it, people die. So when you're not truthful about how you feel physically, when you're not truthful about records, when you're not truthful about, doing what you say that you did or have committed to do, it may not happen today, but it will happen. And so someone's got to answer for that. I've known stories where people have said, oh, I did the nighttime inspection on the airfield. Airplane lands, something pops up off the runway, tears a hole in the side of an airplane, and now we all trying to figure out, what was or what wasn't done. And so, just about being integral.
Thank you.
I have a question. Hi everyone, my name is Janaya. I'm a freshman majoring in aviation, and my question is, what trends in aviation and aviation management do you see shaping regional airports such as Wilmington Airport in the next decade?
UAVs. I think the electric wave, I guess you can call it, is something that airports and aviation companies are really taking a serious look at, because at the end of the day, that's where we're going. And so for us in a lot of airports, it's always future planning. We do what's considered a master plan. So a master plan is a document that looks from today until about 20 years out. Of course, things change, but now, as the airport's coming up on their master plan development phase, you have to start looking at UAVs. And that's airside as well as chargers on the land side of the operation. And so do we install chargers now? When we run conduit, when we run cable, do we consider running the cable now for charging, or do we wait? I'm going to tell you, most airports are like, hey, if we can do it, let's run it now. And when we need it, you pull it up out the ground and you already have it. It's cheaper to do it now with your project than do it, because who knows in the future what that'll cost you to run that cable fresh. I had a project recently. I had to bring some conduit cable, which is like communication cable, from one side of a street to another. I thought I was going to have to tear up pavement, which was going to cost me a ton of money that I didn't budget for originally. Come to find out, we had there were 2 duct banks. We had ran it to one side and spliced it. So when you pulled the covers back, it was like, oh shoot, just send it to the other side underground and didn't have to tear up that pavement. So that's the way that you've got to think ahead, not just for today, but what's coming down the pipe.
Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you.
Any other questions? No? All right. Well, it looks like we don't have any more questions for you, but we thank you for your time for today. This was very insightful. I just learned something new, and I'm excited to just kind of like see where not just the field of aviation goes, but our students and how they'll be able to take communicating across all stakeholders and everything that you've taught and shared on today with them in their various careers and lives. So thank you.
Absolutely, I appreciate it. I'm excited for for what the College of Business and Dr. Williams is doing here, because you guys are what's coming next. And as much as there are some older ones who don't like it, you guys are what's coming next. And so we've got to hold on to what you guys bring to the industry. You're going to be impactful. You're going to change the world. And so I'm excited to see some of y'all in the aviation industry when you're running Delta, or when you're flying a 767 across the ocean, or whatever the case may be, or you're running a PR firm, or whatever your interest is. I'm excited to see what the world will look like because you guys are a part of it.
Well, thank you. And this has been Beyond the Lecture podcast. Thanks for tuning in to Beyond the Lecture. We hope you've gained valuable insights and inspiration to take your business knowledge to the next level. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. Until next time, keep pushing boundaries, stay curious, and remember, the learning never stops when you're going beyond the lecture.